Pop them in. Brandon, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. It's nice to meet you.
You as well.
You are live on air with our fans, friends, families, and guests.
Love that.
It's very nice to meet you. We connected through professional athlete community, which we will get to. The thing that I ask everybody when they join, the conversation I really want to have with our guests is why. Why are we here? Why were you interested in telling your story with us? What is the thing that Brandon Miller is doing either during or after his career?
I saw your post and I really wanted to. I've been looking at opportunities to kind of get myself out there more. I enjoy going on podcasts, talking. One of my biggest, motivators in life right now is just sharing my story and how I got to where I am, and hopefully the next generation can use some of that to make better choices than I made, and be motivated and potentially make similar choices that have been successful. So I like enjoying, or I like sharing my story, and hopefully people enjoy it.
Yeah. What? And it's nice to meet you. Like, it's so funny because part of me wanting to do this was okay. I'm going to talk about sports every morning, and I'm going to do it in this little bedroom, and I'm going to pop guests in, and we're going to go off the cuff. And we've never met before. And I read your story, and I read the things that you were working on, and it really fascinates me the connection that you're trying to build between being an athlete and uh, you'll use different terminology, but what I'm seeing is the same thing that I'm trying to teach people and teach athletes and teach entrepreneurs building in sports is leveraging athletes' opportunity to be in the window. Um, for you, what is your motivation for doing the things that you're doing in sports? And we're going to link everything in the show notes and in our newsletter for folks as well.
I think a lot of it for me is, I played in the USL for 10 years. I had a very
Mm-hmm.
successful career. I tend to think I was a very good goalkeeper in the league. But I wasn't the most well-known soccer player in the world, not even in the United States. And I didn't realize when I was playing how much leverage I did have as a
Right.
professional athlete still.
Right.
So I don't feel like I took advantage a lot of the rooms that I had access to, the people I was connected with, and I didn't use that to kind of leverage. I started a business when I was still playing, 2016. I didn't utilize the access I had to a lot of different people within my industry and beyond that could help me grow my business. And so now, 5 years out of playing, I'm in a space where I'm doing that actively now and seeing the growth for my current soccer business and for my
Yeah.
investment business as well. And so I want athletes to understand at a younger age how they can utilize their profiles, the brands that they're building for themselves to get opportunities that they may not feel like they have access to,
Yeah.
or don't really know a ton about. Like, everyone wants to be around athletes, and that's what I'm learning
Yeah.
a lot. And so there's so much more to it than just being an athlete. So I just want more athletes to understand that.
I was just scrolling through your website and I can I just share my screen with you to show you what I was doing? This is so meta. Here's what here's what I was doing. Scrolling through this to show folks your website. On the front you have helping athletes become credible partners in the sports investing space. I would love to hear more from you what that looks like, what it means to help athletes for you, and tell us a little bit about this helping athletes invest, the work that you're doing with all of your companies. What should I know? What should we know?
Well, I think the work that I want to do and what it looks like to help athletes is one, doing things like this, is opening up and sharing my story and how I got involved in the investing space, which
Yeah.
was through a failure. I had a project in 2025 that I was working on to bring a sports tech facility here to Charlotte, and spent a good amount of money on it, on the process, and tried to raise some money, and ultimately it didn't work out. But that spurred me into getting connected with the family office, which then spurred me to getting connected with pro athlete community, which has pushed me forward into the investing space, and starting Miller Woods Capital Partners, where we've
Mhm.
invested in three companies so far this year. And we just put a LOI in yesterday for two small businesses and a property here in Charlotte. So we're definitely growing in that investing space. But it's pushed me to learn due diligence and to learn deal flow and to understand what venture capital looks like, private equity, all of that stuff. And so, helping athletes is one, by me educating myself, becoming more of an expert in the space, and then taking that education back to other athletes who I know have interest in this space but don't necessarily know how to get started. So I think, like, communities like pro
Yeah.
athlete community are really important because it gives them a space to learn, and feel more comfortable doing it around people that they know are have similar interests, and connecting with experts is also exciting as well.
Where in your journey, in your career, 10 years of playing professional sports is a really long time. I played 2 years with the New York Mets, got injured, got released, qualified, like played European baseball, qualified for the Olympics for like 3 years. I played 5 years and I was exhausted and my body doesn't work. For you, a 10-year career is a very long time. At what point in your career were you like, okay, I got to start thinking about that next thing? Or was it never about that? Was it, I'm going to be here as long as I can and I'm going to learn how to leverage what I'm doing right now? Because I know you started a company or one of your companies while you were playing. So what was that experience like for you, like during the duration of your career?
Yeah, I started prime focus goalkeeping in 2016 while I was playing out in Orange County, and the biggest catalyst for that was mainly just because I was signed to a goalkeeper glove company at the time. They were my sponsors. They treated me really well, but I was in the USL. I wasn't an MLS goalkeeper. I was an international goalkeeper. I wasn't the biggest name,
Mhm.
and so when I signed for them, like I thought I did that just because I thought it was going to help me with marketing and building my brand. Ultimately, again, they treated me really well, but I didn't get that marketing boost that I was looking for, and
Mhm.
so I was like, why would I be one of 100 at the time? They have the most goalkeepers in the United States. Like they're one of the largest goalkeeper brands, but I didn't want to be one of 100. I wanted to be one of one. I went to school, graduated from UNC Wilmington, got my marketing degree, so I had some understanding in that space, and so I was like, why don't I just do it myself? And so I started looking into it. I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset. My mother started a business. I watched her grow that, and so I wanted to test it out, and so I did, and that kind of spurred me on throughout my career. Of like, I'm building my soccer career, but I'm also building this in the background. And how the two tie together? How can I utilize my soccer career to build this brand as well? Um, so there was a lot there that I wanted to focus on outside of the field. I don't know if that took away from my career. I don't think it took away from my
Mhm.
career. Like you said, a 10-year career is a long career. That's something I'm right now grappling with myself of really trying to give myself credit for the longevity that I had in my career, not just the success but the longevity. There's not many people that I signed 5 contracts in my career. There's not many people that signed more than one, so it's a difficult feat. So balancing that, the career success while also trying to build off the field was definitely something, halfway through my career I started thinking about, and then trying to figure out what it looks like once I get done playing to step off the field and seamlessly transition.
10 years is a very long time. When did you first sign? You played in college and then got signed into the
Yes,
USL after that?
I went to UNC Wilmington,
Uh,
played 4 years there. I graduated early in 2011, signed my first contract that fall or that winter, I guess, right after my season was done. Went up to Rochester, New York in 2012 and started my career.
what is something a just out of college, first, second year Brandon Miller in playing professional football in the States? What uh what do you wish he knew?
I wish he knew that this was a job and not just fun. The thing is, you always want to enjoy it. Like over 10 years, I think about all the enjoyable moments, and I am really grateful for them. But I wish, rookie Brandon Miller would have understood that, the harder he works, the more effort he puts into this, the more he's going to see out of it. And I think my career could have had a different trajectory. But I just didn't have that professional mindset
Mhm.
that I needed stepping into. The professional space. I remember the very first training session. I stepped in. I was making save after save. I was like, "This is easy." And from there, that's kind of like what spurred me on throughout the year. It was like, "This is pretty easy." I was a backup goalkeeper. I didn't have a lot of pressure to go perform in games, and so it's very easy to step into a training environment. And given like the athletic capabilities that I had and the technical ability I had, it wasn't a huge step into that environment. And so I felt like I was cruising most of that first year. I
Yeah.
didn't really hit adversity probably until, towards the end of my second year where I got injured. And then I realized like, oh, I've got to do more.
When I wanted to start Open Athletes, I had been out of playing sports for 6 years. Can't feel much of my leg. The the conversation that I wanted to have every single day was with athletes and people building in sports. You were doing both with to see where the money is moving in sport. To not put ourselves in Kevin Durant's shoes, because not all of us are Kevin Durant, but how can we learn from the things that are happening within sports industry? Um, I never had the ability to participate in NIL, but I've seen it from the outside. And when you're a college athlete, you're like, oh, I could totally do this, and I'm just not allowed to. What is that? Now that things are changing, it feels like sport entrepreneurship, athletes being empowered to start their own thing, either athletes themselves as a business. As part of PAC is like Kamalani Dung. She's amazing. We have this conversation all the time. She is a brand and a business herself. Athletes now have the ability, if they wanted to capitalize on who they are and what they want to do and what they're interested in. You've had a front row seat into the money movements of sports for a long time, or at least have thought about it enough to get into the venture capital world as a former athlete, investing back into sports and other things. Over the last couple of years, what are the trends that you are seeing in the way that money is moving in sport that it might be interesting for an athlete, either a young you in USL or young athletes, to think about as they're preparing for life outside of sport?
I think the most interesting thing for me, and something I wish, I mean, it wasn't really as prevalent back when I was, playing, but looking at athletes, and it's not just about sponsorships anymore. It's not just
Mm.
about sponsorship dollars that are coming, especially when you look at these NIL deals. There's an opportunity for athletes to gain ownership and things, to gain equity in companies, and it's not just, hey, you give me $10,000 and I'll do X amount of social media posts and
Mm.
do an event. It's like, all right, maybe I take a little less up front, but I get a percentage point. I get some type of equity in this company that gives me a vested interest in helping this company long term to grow. And from there, that's growing, my financial capability long term. And how do you do this with multiple companies and be able to have yourself on the cap table? You're building a resume as well as, gaining equity in a variety of companies that you're interested in. And so
That's
I
right.
think that's, one of the biggest things. It's not just random companies, but like some of the companies that we've invested in recently, all of the companies that we invested recently are companies that I personally am interested in, personally feel like I can provide value to. And so that's
Mm.
where, that trend I'm seeing is a lot of athletes are starting to step up into the cap table as opposed to just taking money to promote different brands.
Bro, it feels like you're watching the show every day. Thank you so much. Athletes as entrepreneurs, athletes as investors, athletes being part of the cap table. That is like what we're talking about, because now athletes have leverage
Yeah.
and they're sought after in the marketplace. They always have been, right, for the distribution that they can provide, but simply for a check. And now athletes are now starting to set the precedent on who they are and where they are can open up doors for that brand as well. Last week-ish, we talked about Rippy the Pasta Company allowing Rippy the basketball player, who's a freshman at Duke, to be on the cap table in exchange for, an investor is now a freshman basketball player at Duke, which is going to open up, if he's good and can get drafted or wins a national championship, the doors that are open for Rippy now is the pasta version of Prime, or the pasta version of whatever that PB&J sandwiches thing is that's taking over like locker rooms that I've seen, back in my day. And I'm not
Yeah, but
that
it's
old.
also
Yeah.
like for me, it's also the education that he's going to get. And,
Yeah, that's
as
right.
an
That's right.
investor on the cap table as a freshman in college, right? The access he now has to the behind the scenes of how a company is run, how it's built, how it scales. That's adding something to your resume at 18, 19 years old
That's right.
that very few people have access to. And so now, how can he start to do more of that over the next 3 to 4 years? And whether he gets drafted or not, now his resume looks
That's right.
completely different. His interests may completely change given, what he's learning over the next 6 months, 12 months, 2 years.
Why open athletes exist too is to say to those athletes, number one, we can help guide you. Number two, we want to limit the amount of stupid decisions that are made by athletes, or the surface area in which they can be taken advantage of, which they are.
Mhm.
And I was 26 when I got done playing with nothing on my resume, but some guys that I know that are still playing are 32. Even though they might have made a few $1,000,000, in this day and age, it doesn't last a long
Yeah.
time. In your experience of playing professional sports for a very long time, and like your understanding of how the space works and the transition out works, we've touched a bit on what athletes should do is, think about the opportunities that are there for them. You wrote in March, I love your blog.
Thank you.
Honestly, we should work together much closer because we share the same interests. Why proximity is the most underrated career move athletes never make. Last year, I talked for 20 minutes about building a network, why it's important to build a network, how to use that as an opportunity to set you up after your career. Can you explain for folks why proximity is important and what that actually means for athletes who are currently in that window to be able to make those connections and use the fact that they are a professional athlete?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about this for hours. I mean, I look at what I'm doing right now. We've got a deal where we're looking to acquire two businesses and a property here in North Carolina, and we're going to have to raise some capital for that. It's a much easier conversation, much easier task to get done when you have a network of people who are in that similar space, who are looking at different investments and are always willing to at least have a conversation and potentially write a check. And so, as an athlete, you're typically around people in those similar spaces. You got team owners, you got team investors. I look at like the USL. I got connected with a number of different investors who just enjoy investing in sports. USL is not a massive profitable investment right now, so they're investing a lot of times for the love of the game, but they have the money to they have the disposable income to do that. So those are people that you can connect with on a consistent basis, and it doesn't always have to be about investing. It can just be about life. Doesn't mean they're not good people as well. And so like having those connections, so a couple of years down the line you can make those phone calls. Hey, I'm done playing. I'm kind of figure out where I want to go in life. Like, what options do you think I could potentially have, or where do you think I should go? Like, those are much easier conversations than contracts up, don't think I'm going to play anymore,
Yep.
where do I go from here? Like, I need to reconnect with that person from 3 years ago that I haven't spoken to in 3 years, but they know who I am, but like the relationship there isn't there anymore. So
Yep.
that's one thing I wasn't great about in my career, and I wish I had been better about it. And that's what I speak with athletes all the time now, is that you have incredible access to people who enjoy being around you, love seeing you play, but also just most of them genuinely just want to have good relationships with you. And so if you
Yep.
can maintain those relationships, it's going to pay off in 5-10 years when you're done playing.
Scarcity is that thing. It's like, how many minor league baseball players from the New York Mets are calling me or writing to me saying, hey, I'm Jeremy with the New York Mets, is much easier to say than, hey, I'm Jeremy, I used to play for the New York Mets.
Exactly.
Oh, I used to play high school baseball. Wow, cool. Like, you're the same used to as me. The ability for an athlete to understand their worth in the marketplace, touched on equity, like literally owning a piece of that thing that wants you. You have the ability to ask for a piece of them as well. And if they say no, obviously things to consider, right? I know athletes that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars in NIL and are trying to transition into the workplace. NIL can be a job if you treat it like a job. It is money. Hopefully, all athletes are knowing how to save it or utilize it correctly. The transition from athlete to being in business, having a job, how have you seen that go for yourself if you have worked in corporate? And if not, how have you seen that transition for your friends or people that you know who have done that, to take that piece of them that I used to be this and translate that into being successful in that thing that is paying you money to do that job that they need you to do?
So it's interesting. I feel like I have this conversation every single day. I've never worked in corporate. I don't have the corporate experience, and so is that something that I need
Lucky
to
you.
do? I go back and forth with that a lot, you know. But there's pros and cons to the corporate life versus entrepreneurial life, and so I share that with people a lot of times. But from the transition, that I know plenty of athletes who have stepped into corporate, and some have been successful and some have struggled a bit.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is understanding your identity outside of the game and understanding what made you successful in sports, and then how can you translate that to what's going to make you successful in your job. You were a good teammate in the locker room. How do you become a good teammate in the office now? And what does that look like? What does your role look like? I think I'm a huge proponent of playing your role. If I had played my role a little bit better, I think I could have been successful in my career. Not everyone's going to be the all-star. Not everyone's going to be the standout, but everyone has a role on the team. And I think that very much goes in corporate as well. It's like you may not be highest salesperson on the team, but you have a role that's going to be beneficial for the company. And if you play that role well, hopefully that takes spurs you on into greater things. And so I think the huge thing is identity, understanding who you are as a person and what makes you successful, and how can you apply that in the environment that you're in.
We've gone our 15 minutes. We've gone a little bit further. I appreciate you. I could go an hour on this. I could go two. So if you can stick around for another couple minutes, would you be
I'm
able
good.
to?
I'm
Okay.
good. Yeah.
In your, you've taken a step back from playing professional sports, as have I, and I now get to yell at people every single day about like how money's moving, or like, yeah, Mark Cuban's buying a part of the A's and all of this stuff. When you're looking at the future of how, I feel like we're in this transition period where NIL is becoming more prevalent. Athletes have the ability to make more money by positioning themselves as like distributors of an audience. I have seen money move into sports most recently in the last what feels like 3 weeks than I feel like I ever have. The future of athletes as entrepreneurs while they're playing and while they're done playing. Where do you see this trajectory going? Do you see it becoming more prevalent? And how do you see athletes continuing to leverage like who they are and what they're doing in the space?
Yeah, I think that I mean, obviously, I see the trajectory. Like, I think more athletes are going to start to dive in and start to figure out where exactly they want to be on their own, and then figure out what partnerships they can create or what leverage they can use to gain equity in places. I think the biggest thing that I think a lot of athletes are going to start to see is like as more athletes flood in, you're going to see a lot of the same. You're going to see a lot of athletes who want to do a lot of similar things, so it becomes more competitive in that market. So now, how do you differentiate
Mm-hmm.
yourself? And I think for someone like me, why I like doing what I do and sharing my stories, because I wasn't a massive athlete who made millions of dollars. I was a USO athlete making tens of thousands of dollars, and now these USO athletes are making hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it's not something that is long term going to set you up for life. And so it's figuring out what that differentiator is for you, especially in what is going to become a much more crowded marketplace as you see more athletes starting to really lean into building their brand and leveraging that brand. And so now it's what is going to make you different, whether it's an audience, so you have a large audience, or what is it, the skill set that you have that you can bring to the table for a certain company
Mm-hmm.
that's going to make you stand out and make you the one that they choose.
For athletes that think that the only way to do that is by building an audience rather than building skills, we'll say. Some athletes don't even know what skills to build. I was lucky enough where I knew that like the thing that I wanted to do was always communicate rather than being technical, which I think a majority of athletes like are able to do that, especially maybe if they come from team sports. The building the audience component is obviously where the money's moving. The biggest audiences are getting the biggest deals, the most opportunities. If you were still playing, or Brandon Miller as a second, third, fourth year, what would you be doing to build an audience to create that leverage for you in the space?
I look at it very similar to what I'm doing right now, and what my main focus is like I feel like I'm really good at being vulnerable and being honest about
Mm-hmm.
myself, my career, my skill set, where I'm at right in life. And I think that is something that really resonates with people a lot more than a lot of the stuff that you see on social media that's really curated. And for context, I ran a marketing agency with my ex for about 3 years, and so one of my biggest focuses in that marketing agency was how do we get athletes to build their brands a little bit more. And so this is a lot of what we talked about, sharing the actual stories of what goes on in the day to day of a USL athlete, of a professional soccer player, what that looks like, and sharing with the audience and the ups and downs. I think there's a ton of ups that are shared, not always the downs. And I think the people who build audiences and really resonate with the people are the ones who are honest about what is going on in their life, and
Mm-hmm.
because that really connects with the individual, because not everyone is struggling with something at some point.
I appreciate you being on. There is a lot here for us to talk about. I will connect with you offline because I would love to continue this conversation and see if there's an opportunity for you to mentor our cohorts or help guide our athletes in that next step. I think open athletes can certainly benefit from your experience and the thing that you're doing. And I think after doing the research, I'm really pleased and happy at that. And like, I'm really thankful that I built a space for the ability for people to meet you, but also the ability to connect with people who are doing amazing things in sport. So, where can our people, where can our community find you, and what is that thing that you want to leave them with?
So you can, I'm everywhere. You can connect with me at my personal website, brandonmiller.site, my goalkeeper glove brand, primefocusgoalkeeping.com, and social media, like, Brandon K Miller 33 on Instagram, and I've got a TikTok, I've got the business TikTok, I've got a personal TikTok. I do a ton on social media, so it's pretty easy to find me. But the biggest thing I'm always going to leave anyone with, athlete or not, is bet on yourself. Back yourself to succeed. It's one thing I didn't feel like I did enough in my career, and I look back and I wish I would have gambled a little bit more. But believe in yourself, bet on yourself. Shoot for the stars, land in the clouds. That was always my motto. And that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Cool. This will not be the last time you're on the show, I hope. So until next time, Brandon, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it was great being on. Thanks for
Thanks,
having
buddy.
me.
Appreciate it. Oh, man, he's amazing. Folks, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties this morning. We didn't have the ability to go through our stories. We jumped right in to Brandon, and I'm happy we did because much of what he talked about is just the things that we talk about every single day, which is amazing. It means, number one, I think we're on the right track with some of the things that we're talking about. But number two, I think there is so much that we can learn from athletes that are doing these things in this space. So a little bit different. We didn't go through our quick hits yet. We didn't go through our Suns squeeze. We didn't go through all of these things. We jumped right into a conversation with Brandon Miller, and I think, including a little technical difficulties in the middle of that, I'm so grateful that we did. What Brandon is doing is what I want every single athlete to do. What I want every single athlete to learn from. There is such an opportunity to be yourself, to be your authentic self, and to separate yourself from like your career. Let me repeat that. There is so much opportunity for you to separate yourself from your career. And why would you want to do that? Because you are not that person anymore. You're the person who used to do that. But that thing that you used to do is the opportunity that you have. The things that you are able to pull from your previous life, or while you're still playing, into your new life, like that is the opportunity for you. Brandon's done it incredibly successfully. Brandon was a 10-year professional athlete at the highest levels of professional sports. He's like, USL is not the biggest, whatever. It's still professional sports, and he was still able to like play a very long time in professional sports. Amazing. But he understood as he was getting to the end of his career that there is a next step. The things that we need to learn as an athlete is that next step is going to come. How early in our career are we going to realize that? Which means we're going to have more opportunity than the next guy because we're putting those pieces in place. We're understanding the things that we need to do to set us up for success while we're playing in that very small window. His was 10 years. Mine was 5. Summer 1. Summer 2. How are you going to leverage the fact that you have this opportunity to build an incredibly dense network of, he was saying, investors in professional soccer teams? Your ability to make a connection, your ability to show interest, your ability to create something from nothing in the opportunity that you have within that window, that's what Brandon's done incredibly well. He said, I am Brandon Miller, the former professional football player for the USL, all these different teams, 5 contracts. He was a great athlete for 10 years, could probably still out-athlete a lot of us. Certainly me. I'm not feeling it anymore. But what he's doing is saying, I used to do this. I created these experiences and these opportunities while I was playing. I'm now taking the things that I learned and the things that I didn't learn to leverage them into success after my career is over. That is what Open Athletes is here to teach. Number one, come on Open Athletes and tell your story. Number two, come on Open Athletes and help and build a business as part of Open Athletes. Be part of the cohorts. Learning from people like Brandon. Learning from people like Dan Bauer. Entrepreneurs who have built things, very big things in sports and not sports. You yourself, like I mentioned, Kamalani Dung is Kamalani Dung the business. She does things as Kamalani Dung and also starts a lot of amazing, wonderful things. You are and have the opportunity while you're playing to leverage the fact that you are in the window, like we talk about every single day. You don't have any excuses not to, unless you like don't want to. Unless you're like, I don't want to, I'd rather just go get a job. But what I'm sensing is most people are like, how do I create something? How do I leverage this time that I have here? I was blessed with the ability to be a great athlete. I was blessed with the ability to hit a baseball. That was the one thing I did in baseball better than most. But that's not translating into a large audience, leverage, distribution. So Brandon Miller is the perfect example of the things that we talk about on the show every single day. Which means, A, we're going in the right direction, but B, people like Brandon Miller are the best guests to have on because they're reinforcing the fact that there is a right step to take during and after your career, and Brandon Miller is a prime example of how to do it at an incredibly high level. So, thank you, Brandon, for being here. This will not be the last time that we have Brandon on, I hope. And maybe there's an opportunity for you to work closely with him in the things that he is doing, or as a mentor for Open Athletes, which I will poke him about today. All right, folks, quick hits. We're getting into it. An NBA owner pledged half his company to buy a team. My Phoenix Suns. I'd rather have Ishbia than the last guy. Okay? The last guy was okay? An NBA owner, Matt Ishbia, pledged half his company to buy a team. The stock fell about 70%. Now everyone's asking if he has to sell. The NBA just printed a record $2.11 billion in ad sales. Travis Kelce started an agency to sell 45,000 college athletes to brands. That's the big one. Kansas signed a term sheet to get paid to play a basketball tournament. A minor league baseball association just bought its way into 36 million homes. Melvin Gordon, Doak Walker winner, is joining a creator crew instead of a broadcast booth. Safe Sport is hitting reset while Congress dingles more money. Then today's take. It's Thursday, so it's the Builder's Playbook, and the lesson is the one thing every athlete signing something this fall needs. Read the term sheet, not the headline. And then we'll recap a little bit about our conversation with Brandon Miller earlier. Again, technical difficulties this morning as we were getting the show going, and I said, why do 4 minutes of quick hits, and let's jump on with Brandon right away and help us set the tone for today's conversation. Quick hit number one, Clay Travis launches Sport in State. Clay Travis sold Outkick, sat still for a summer, and launched a new site, Sport in State. His words, roughly 70% sports, 50% pop culture, 15% where politics meets sports. Wow, that sounds a lot like what we're doing with Open Athletes. That's cool. He sold one audience and is building a new one from zero. I respect the hustle. I don't know who Clay Travis is, but I've heard the name maybe in sport media. Entrepreneur. I know the name. But for those of you who do know the name, he is starting Sport in State. Caitlin Clark breaks the WNBA record again. Indiana over Atlanta averaged 2.6 million viewers, peaked at 4 million. Per ESPN, the most watched WNBA game, regular season or playoff in cable history. The demand was always there. The distribution is finally catching up. Good on the WNBA. Treat Caitlin Clark with respect, please. I don't care why you want to push her over. People aren't doing the things that they're doing to Caitlin Clark to LeBron. Sorry about it. So, I'm a huge Sophie Cunningham fan. She used to play for my Phoenix Mercury. So, watch the WNBA. It's the reason why 4 million people are watching it, tuning in. Fantastic. It's good basketball. Watch the WNBA. We support the WNBA here. Walter's regional TV problem. Per Puck's John Oren, Mark Walter sought lump sum payments from Charter to exit the Lakers and Dodgers local TV deals. The Dodgers local TV deal is incredible. It's like a $3 billion deal over the next 20-something years, maybe a little bit less. It was around $300 million a year from the Dodgers local TV regional affiliate to the Dodgers, and Walter was seeking out of it for a lump sum cash payment to help pay off some of his debts, some of his problems. Fire sale. He's trying to sell the Lakers quick. He's trying to sell parts of the Dodgers, parts of the money that's coming in for the Dodgers. There's a lot more here that we're going to learn about and that we're going to see. Because if you're selling the Lakers over a weekend on a napkin for $12.5 billion, can you imagine? I'm like, yeah, I think I want to pay for this extra guac on Chipotle. Am I still at that level? I'm not selling the Lakers for $12.5 billion on a napkin over a weekend. Nielsen changes the count. Nielsen is rolling out co-viewing measurements for football, and its pilot lifted audience sizes by about 4%. Same game, bigger number, because they counted how you're utilizing your time and their distribution and your enthusiasm for their team. We talked about it a couple days ago. Go Bills. But the Arizona Cardinals and Phoenix are not doing a good job of leveraging that audience that is being created. Quick at number 5. LAFC's ownership clock. I love the LAFC. I love MLS. I will be open and honest about my feelings about the MLS. But I like the MLS. It's good football in the evenings if you have nothing else to do, etc. First article, Larry Berg is on a timeline to divest his controlling stake in LAFC. This sale, every sale, resets the price of the whole league. Expansion fees for MLS teams are $250 million now. $500 million. More. Less. More. Let's talk about Matt Ishbia. Suns squeeze. Ishbia'S margin call. Okay. Margin call. When Matt Ishbia bought the Phoenix Suns for a then record $4 billion in 2023. He bought the Mercury. He bought I believe he bought most of the real estate that like the Phoenix Suns were holding. I don't think he owns the arena. I think the city of Phoenix, in partnership with the Suns, owns the arena. The arena's fine. They were like, we launched better screens outside the arena. Okay, cool. Number one, like, no one's walking around. They're walking into the arena. Fine. And like, nobody can fucking park. So what do you want from me? When Matt Ishbia bought Phoenix for a record $4 billion in 2023, he didn't wire $4 billion in cash. He borrowed, which most people do, and pledged his own company stock as collateral. That's exactly what Elon Musk did to buy Twitter. He raised money and leveraged his Tesla stock to do that. That's a normal rich guy move, right until the stock goes the wrong way. Per huddle up. Days before the 2023 purchase, Ishbia'S holding company pledged 805 million shares of United Wholesale Mortgage, UWM, to JP Morgan as collateral. Per huddle up, UWM stock has fallen more than 70%, so a pledge once worth $4.6 billion is worth $1.5 billion today. UWM also took out a $600 million loss, secured a $1.5 billion oak tree infusion, and suspended its dividend. Per Bloomberg, Ishbia is finalizing a deal to buy out remaining Suns and Mercury's shareholders, taking his stake to 99%. So what is it? For sale or about to own almost the entire team? Is Ishbia in trouble? Is the Suns' future in doubt? Both stories are alive at once. And that tension is the lesson. When you buy with borrowed money and pledge stock, you've made two bets. Bet number one, the team goes up. Bet number two, the thing you pledge doesn't fall. Ishbia won bet one and is getting crushed on bet two. He's not Mark Walter. Let me repeat that. This is happening at the same time, but he is not Mark Walter. Walter had a liquidity problem and had to sell the Lakers. Ishbia has a bad stock problem, not a cash problem. Maybe about to buy the rest of the team anyway. So why should you care about a mortgage lender's balance sheet? Because this is leverage, like we talked about with Brandon Miller earlier. And leverage gets sold to you as freedom. An NIL advance, a loan against future earnings, product fronted against sales you haven't made yet. All of it is Ishbia's move in miniature. Very miniature, because his was like $4 billion. You're pledging something you own against money you want today. When the number moves against you, the bank doesn't care that you're a good person. The leverage feels like freedom until the collateral drops and the bank starts calling. Is he being squeezed? Is there an opportunity? Is there an opportunistic power grab? What is going on with the my Phoenix Suns? I love my Phoenix Suns. I grew up in the Steve Nash era Phoenix Suns. I got good history with my Phoenix Suns, okay? I'm wearing, qualifying for the Olympics, man, or like training for the Olympics. I'm wearing my Shaq jersey, my Shaq Suns jersey, because the Suns in 4 had just happened. Amazing. Could a margin call force a Phoenix Suns sale? Maybe. Let's say you want to buy an NBA team. You own a multi-billion-dollar company, but you don't have $4 billion in cash. So you take out a loan. You call JP Morgan and you tell them you need a few $1 billion in cash and are willing to pledge your company's stock as collateral. JP Morgan is happy to help. They take your personal stock as collateral and give you a few billion. You have to repay the loan within 10 years, but you don't have to sell any stock or trigger capital gains to fund the purchase, and the interest rate is so low that you can pay it back with incoming dividends. That is essentially what Matt Ishbia did when he bought the Phoenix Suns for then record $4 billion in 2023. What was the next record is later that year, Walter bought the Lakers for $10 billion. And this year, the Lakers are sold for $12.5 billion. It's a pretty good strategy, right? Since Ishbia didn't have to sell a ton of stock in his mortgage company, UWM, United Wholesale Mortgage, to fund the purchase, he maintained majority control via voting rights at 90%. And the board of directors. The only problem with this strategy is what happens when things go south. Say the stock you pledge starts to drop 10% a month, 40% a year, 75% in years. Every time that happens, the bank calls you and asks you to put up more collateral. That is a margin call. We will link all of this in the show notes, but that's what a margin call is. Understanding how this works matters because this is the exact dilemma Matt Ishbia is now facing. Just days before he purchased the Phoenix Suns, he secured 2 loans from JP Morgan. The loans gave Ishbia the liquidity he needed. Now he owes JP Morgan, and he put collateral up as he's able to pay off those payments that he owes them. If JP Morgan does reach a limit, does that mean Matt Ishbia will have to sell the Phoenix Suns? Go read Huddle Up and Joe Pompliano. He's amazing. Well, that's usually how it works. The resulting scenario is pretty straightforward. Ishbia secures loans collateralized by UWM stock. UWM drops 50%, and JP Morgan makes Ishbia put up more stock, cash, to avoid default. UWM stock keeps dropping. JP Morgan calls Ishbia for more stock and cash. If Ishbia can't put up enough collateral to bring the loan to value ratio within an acceptable threshold, JP Morgan can seize or sell portions of his UWM stock in the open market to cover the debt. Forced selling then drives UWM stock even lower. UWM. That's down. UWM stock has fallen about 70% since Ishbia initially pledged his shares as collateral. As part of their sports portfolio, they bought a piece of the Chicago White Sox as well. What does this mean? He tried to buy something, committing something that fluctuates in value. What if he has to sell the team? He owned it for 3 years. Someone's going to buy it for a couple billion. Where's that money going to go? Back to JP Morgan. Don't become house poor. He didn't assume that his stock would drop 70%. But mortgage companies they fluctuate. And this fluctuation is putting Mr. Ishbia and my Phoenix Suns in a bit of a tizzy. Now, he's also trying to like swoop up 100% of the team, right? So there's movement there. But not only is this a show about the intersection between sports, business, politics, policy, labor, technology, this is a show about Phoenix, about my beloved Phoenix, Arizona. And so when things come up that we can talk about on a national level in my hometown, we're going to talk about it. So Phoenix Hour is going to come back. God bless you, Phoenix Suns. We'll see what comes next. We have about 13 minutes left. And I want to talk about this Travis Kelce deal. What is Travis Kelce doing? Where does he see an opportunity to build? Kelce launches an NIL agency. Travis Kelce is doing something more interesting than another commercial. He's building the toll booth for athletes building in sports, building their own brands, building their own opportunity, building their own things that make them valuable in the marketplace of sport and ideas. On August 18th, Travis Kelce and Publicis Group's sports unit launches TECTA to help brands select, structure, and measure deals with college athletes. Per Variety, TECTA spans a network of 45,000 Division I athletes and 68 Power 4 universities. Per Publicis, Kelce's firm 3 Arts Sports joins as strategic operating partner with Kelce Advising. The pitch: brands lack reliable tools to evaluate and track NIL results. Notice what Kelce didn't do. He didn't sign one more NIL deal. He's 36 and maybe in his last season or two. Top 3 best tight ends of all time. Top 5. Top 3. I will look at the stats. Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, Rob Gronkowski, Travis Kelce. Yeah, I'm missing one. Heath Miller, sorry for you. Arizona State. He's 36, maybe in his last season. Instead of squeezing one more check out of his own name, he took a piece of the machine that pays everybody else. That's the move. Near the end of the window, he's nearing the end of his window. Now, he's Travis Kelce, but he's owning the marketplace. The other side, honestly, athletes get burned by middlemen. Here's a giant ad holding a company plus a celebrity between 45,000 kids, and the money. This is still better than the chaos of a booster and DMs and nobody's tracking anything, and fine. Structure is better. I trust that Travis Kelce, where he sees an opportunity here, can actually do the right thing on behalf of like the kids that are being taken advantage of in a lot of ways by brands. And yes, you'll say, well, they're making millions of dollars. They're 18. Structure beats chaos, but structure has an owner. Is that owner an athlete? Is that owner going to look after the athletes? Kelce understood the value that NIL has. He wouldn't be putting up this effort without it. Open Athlete sees NIL as an opportunity to push further into the marketplace to help athletes as businesses while they're playing. Protect them from the shenanigans that go on. Kelsey stopped renting his own name and bought a piece of everyone else's. Good or bad for the average college athlete? I argue both. Good, because now there's more structure between the brands or whoever with millions of dollars and the athlete who is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 that wants to make millions of dollars. Having protection, having structure there is a good thing. However, the only reason that would be a bad thing is if, again, here's another layer that's taking advantage of athletes. How do we know? We'll see how it goes as they start to build it out. We don't know right now. And it's not just 45,000 athletes. It's 45,000 athletes every single year. College sports shuffles people through. There's always new inventory. Athletes are inventory that these brands and whoever can pull from. And what do they have that's valuable? An audience. They have an audience. Travis Kelce is benefiting from that audience. He's putting his money where his mouth is. And let's see if he actually cares, or the company that he's putting in place to do this actually cares about the well-being of these athletes, or are using them strictly as inventory. You tell me. This show presented by Athletes Fund. Athletes Fund. Athletes Fund. We will help you start and scale your business with a little bit of backing, a little bit of community. Owned and operated by the team at Open Athletes. Wow, that's me. That's me and us. Athletes Fund. Athletes.fund. Okay. Our last story of the day. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're going to be back in full swing tomorrow. But today, our last story is this one. Because I have a lot to say about independent baseball. We have to set the ground stages. What is the American Association? The American Association is an independent professional baseball league. There's some partnerships with Major League Baseball. Some athletes or some testing or whatever. But it's an independent league, and these owners of these teams operate independently of Major League Baseball. They are not affiliated with Major League Baseball in any way. The prevalence of the American Association has always been regionally, locally. There are now more independent baseball league teams because there are less rounds in the draft. There are more players who can play at a higher level. And because there are less rounds, there are less teams. And I am responsible for making less teams. Why would you say that, Jeremy? When I was running More Than Baseball, Major League Baseball said to us, we're going to have to cut rounds in the draft to do the things that you want to do. And we had to make a decision on whether or not that was a good idea or not. Treat the players better. There will be less players. There will be less rounds in the draft. Major League Baseball then decided to cut the draft to 20 rounds, to cut the amount of teams that participate in affiliated professional baseball. The prevalence of independent baseball has gone up. There are more players that can participate in a really high level in independent baseball. So it's close to home for me. I never played it. I never played a real game in independent baseball, but I was qualifying for the Olympics, and I got to play for the Lake Erie Crushers of the little Frontier or something league. The American Association, independent, minor league, unaffiliated baseball, just bought itself a bigger front door. Per Sports Video Group on August 18th, the American Association added Sports Illustrated, SITV, their 24/7 streaming channel, as a broadcast partner for the rest of 2026. SITV will carry 20 games. The deal puts games in front of more than 36 million homes. It's a 72% increase in reach. Will that lead to more money? Opportunity? 20 games, just on a channel. Everybody has, 36 million people have access to. Most people forget it exists. The talent was never the problem for these leagues. They'd always get really high quality talent. The distribution was you would only be able to go and watch a game. So when a scrappy independent league trades some rights for a spot in 36 million homes, that's the whole point. You don't fix an attention problem by getting better. You fix it by getting into a bigger room, even an imperfect one where 36 million people might not know that that channel exists. 36 million people have access to now watching the independent leagues. Are they going to tune into unaffiliated minor league baseball? The answer is only if they're watching somebody who they've seen before, or if you're in like the city. I can't think of one of the teams in the American Association right now off the top of my head, but will people tune in? People are watching baseball because it's quicker or whatever, but are people going to watch unaffiliated professional baseball? I want to buy a professional sports team in my career. I would absolutely not buy an independent league team. And prove me wrong. If you own an independent minor league baseball team, tell me here on the show why it is a good investment. And we've talked a lot about how sports investments are going up and up and up and up. But where am I wrong? Where am I wrong in thinking the American Association is a good investment? I don't know if it is. But it might be regionally. It might be depending on the amount of fans it might be great, right? You're paying the players a little bit, and you're basically making all of your money on advertising and ticket sales. But it's passion projects for a lot of these owners. I'm sure of it. Just kind of what Brandon was saying earlier about the USL. The American Association has built a quality league, and we're pleased to offer exciting AAPB action on SITV as the season heads into its stretch run. It's 20 games. Cool your jets. The addition follows last month's edition. A human being did not write this. Or an AI wrote this. Let's read this sentence, folks. And the edition follows last month's edition of FanDuel Sports Network and MLB's coverage of the 2026 All-Star Game from Lincoln, Nebraska on July 15th. AAPB's current broadcast partners include NBC Regional Sports Network, Marquee, Bally Corporation, blah, 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 blah. All right. What does this mean? What does it mean for us today? It means it's money moving in and out of sports, as we know. It means you have an opportunity to build an audience in sports. It means if you're playing independent baseball, how can you leverage the fact that now you're in front of 36 million homes? Can you? Is there anything that you can do? Is there anything that's making those games exciting? I have no idea where to watch SITV. Do I download the app? I don't know. In their press release, they probably should have told me. Am I one of those 36 million homes that has access to SITV? I have no idea. Can I just watch it online? Is the entertainment value of independent baseball going to make me tune in? No. But if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Come on the show, talk about it. If you're an owner, I invite you, I implore you to come on the show. And I implore you, stick around and stay tuned for next time. This was a lot of fun today. Thank you, Brandon Miller, our guest. We're going to share his information, where to learn more about him and the work that he's doing inside of our Substack, openathletes.substack.com, which you'll see in the description. You'll see a link there. And we'll see you tomorrow.